Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If this is your first time, we appreciate your time. In this episode, we shall be diving deep into how Moscow is gradually chasing France out of the continent of Africa. We will analyze this from the geopolitical standpoint. We shall also look at events on the ground, and we will explore this like never before seen. So we encourage you to watch this video to the end for clarity and better understanding. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. The French flag was lowered for the last time in the Bila Zagreb military camp in Burkina Faso a couple of months ago, marking the end of 13 years of a presence by French armed forces in the West African country. France's withdrawal from Burkina Faso comes at a time when you are less likely to see the French tricolor in the capital of Ouagadougou than the Russian red, white and blue, marking a rapid and stunning loss of influence for the former colonial power. Around 400 French troops had been posted in Burkina Faso since 2010 as part of France's effort to stop hostages taking and also later to curb the expansion of terrorist groups in the broader Sahel region. In January, the French were given 1 month to leave the country, a decision that followed a period of growing instability in the country, including 2 coups d'etat in 2020. The withdrawal from Burkina Faso is the third setback for French President Emmanuel Macron, who promised a new approach to Africa when he came to power in 2017, one based on a partnership of equals. Moving ahead, in recent months, France has also had to leave Mali and Central African Republic, raising fears of a domino effect across the continent as Macron winds down his country's decade-long bacchanal operations to fight against jihadists in the Sahel. It is a real test for France, according to one expert, Saidik Agba, a writer from Niger and an African security studies specialist at the University of Valenciennes in France. The expert warned, if France doesn't want to see a contagion across the continent of Africa, it has to change its approach. In Burkina Faso, he continued, the situation is shaky. Agba added, and also now in Chad and Niger, people wanted to see a new type of partnership with France. Based off his own analysis, there are still about 6,000 French boots on the ground on the African continent, including 1,000 in Niger and over 900 in the Ivory Coast, according to local reports based on our own research. The reasons for France's waning influence in the Sahel region are multifaceted, rooted in its colonial history and accelerated by the local politics. But its troubles are also in consequences of Russia's ambition to expand its footprint on the continent, especially since it started over its scale of invasion of the country of Ukraine. Looking forward, the Elysee Palace has taken note. If you consider when the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, traveled to Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Republic of the Congo, Gabon, and also the heels of Russian Foreign Ministry's Federal Labour Store of Mali, Mauritania, and also Sudan in the January of last year, you could imagine how the tensions are warming up within the African continent. As French troops are systematically ushered out, they are in some cases being replaced by mercenaries from Russian paramilitary organizations, the Wagner Group, which is led by Vladimir Putin's ally, Yevgeny Prigozhin. In Burkina Faso, the country military leaders deny they have sealed a deal with Wagner Group, but Russian mercenaries have been sighted in the country a couple of times. Backing up the Wagner's boots on the ground, Russia is also waging sophisticated and also coordinated information warfare, grossly misrepresenting France's presence, which has so far struggled to effectively strike back in regards to strategic move. Some French officials are beginning to acknowledge the complication, according to one French expert who said that they have not built enough power. French experts and diplomats understand and analysts understand the challenges on the ground. The continent of Africa is warming up regarding those two political competition, looking at their presence and also influence in the continent of Africa. In his defense review speech, Mr. Macron argued that the army should also focus on influence operation in the face of disinformation campaigns and attempt to manipulate civilians, particularly in the continent of Africa. French Armed Forces Minister Sébastien Lecornu visited Ivory Coast to look at the specific arrangement of things. He's been to this country 2 times just within a year, and also they have been to Senegal as well to look at the strategic activities happening on the ground. And in an effort to fight back in the virtual sphere of diplomacy, France's Foreign Affairs Minister has created a new unit to spot early signs of disinformation campaigns and provide French officials across the world with a back office to help respond to fake news operations, according to the French diplomat, with the knowledge in regards to the operations in the region based on our research. If you consider the Wagner's gloves coming off in the region, in recent years, Russia has deployed a wave of crusade falsified accusation against France in African countries, including Mali, Burkina Faso, and Central African Republic. But France's attempt to set the record straight has often fallen flat. There is an accepted asymmetry between liberal democracies and authoritarian states in how they can fight online, argues Maxime Adinet, based on our research, a research fellow at the French Ministry of Armed Forces Institution for Strategic Research. Based on his own analysis, he has pointed out that a democracy cannot resort to disinformation without a boomerang effect. Audited also pointed out, highlighting that in 2020, France's attempt to counter Russian online disinformation campaign in Central African Republic and Mali will fake account backfire when Facebook disclosed the participation of individuals connected to the French armed forces as well. Research by expert looking at Mark Duquesne's old report from African Center for Strategic Studies, an academic institution within the United States Department of Defense, shows that the narrative pushed by Russian interests includes depictions of Moscow as a liberating anti-colonial force against Western imperialism. France, in contrast, is presented as a collaborating with the Islamist jihadists, stealing natural resources, and is portrayed in videos of snake, zombies, and also rat. Based on this particular effort, ahead of France's military withdrawal from its 3 former colonies. Now, let me say this: hitting a reset button amidst fear of a domino effect could be crucial. Russia's disinformation machine would not have been so effective in Africa had France's record on the continent been better in the past decades. Some French experts and lawmakers say former French colonies Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad retained links to France for a long time, but ranked as some of the poorest countries in the world, and even as French troops have fought jihadists in the Sahel since 2013, security in the region has significantly and steadily worsened. Russian propaganda takes advantage of a situation but does not create it. It will not have any hold if we had not accumulated mistakes over the past couple of decades. According to the words of Arnaud Leguel, a lawmaker from the left-wing opposition party in France, who chaired the National Assembly France's Burkina Faso Friendship Group arrangement, France is now attempting a sea change in its relations with African nations. When Macron brought the Barkhane operations to an end last year, the decision was taken to engage in more substantive and supportive roles in Africa. According to experts, France have to learn to work with African armed forces, not instead of them, said one French official. French government officials, with reference to successful joint French and Niger units working together, but those initiatives are still in a relatively nascent stage and not yet widespread. In closing down this episode, the speed with which French forces were expelled from Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Central African Republic left many observers wondering which country will turn in its backs on France next. The anti-French sentiment is everywhere. Wagner is only present in a couple of countries, but the Russian storytelling is everywhere, warned the French government officials at the time, based on our research, who said that most French officials feared that less a domino effect than an anti-French contagion that will undermine France's influence and economic interest in the region. A cartoon circulating on social media at the time, looking at January of that year, which can be linked to Prigozhin, Galaxy, depicts soldiers from Mali fighting back, conquering French zombies with the help of Wagner mercenaries, and then similar scenes from Burkina Faso. In a final frames, a soldier from Ivory Coast comes to seek their help as well. The Russians are trying to create a self-fulfilling prophecies and also looking at how they could dominate the French presence in the region. Many experts are worried that France is declining in the continent of Africa, but others are pointing out that as a result of France's presence in the continent for decades, France never made any effort to solidify its presence, to make strategic moves, invest in infrastructure, businesses, and deal with better cooperation and relationship to enhance the Francophone Africa and other African countries to match with them in terms of power in regards to relationship. This has left some bitter accents in the mouths of most African experts and African people. That's the reason why Moscow is gradually chasing France out of Africa using all types of techniques. However, the country of Russia is currently embroiled in another war with Ukraine. We shall be looking on how these particular geopolitical issues will emerge in the continent of Africa, and what are the roles and strategies that France is going to be employing in figuring out itself with regards to its operation in the region. We want to thank you for watching The Explorer. Let us know what you think with regards to this geopolitical issue in the region. Is your country affected? Drop us a comment in the comment section. If you are new here, we encourage you to check some of our informative videos on this YouTube channel. We are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.